right here on WMEG Radio, Baltimore, Maryland, the number one station in the nation with the dissemination of valuable information with no hesitation or reservation, but an obligation and dedication to the elevation of your present situation. I'm your host, RGL Biz Coach, and I just want to welcome you in for this is going to be a fabulous program today. We are in the last week. Let me see. What's today? Today's date is the 22nd. So I get one more. There's one more program I get to do in the month of August, which happens to be Black Business Month. This is Black Business Month, and I want to make sure that you listeners learn some things about business, some things that maybe you didn't know, or perhaps maybe some things that you want to know. But today is going to be all about that. And you're going to learn a lot today regarding to financial literacy, everything you need to know about finance and investing, and that's going to be coming up in the second half. But before we even get into that, you're also, by the end of today's show, you're going to know how to determine if your business investment is good or not, and why it's important not to lose money when you're making investments. You're going to see in the second part of this program. And you're going to have a 5-year plan to become a millionaire investing in Baltimore real estate. That's right. 5 years. I'm going to give you this plan. If you follow it, if you are diligent and follow instructions, take the initiative to do that, you could become a millionaire in 5 years investing in Baltimore real estate. Baltimore happens to be the number one city in the nation for rental properties. And I'll tell you, you are just gonna leave here feeling that you're ready to just kickstart your $1 million investment plan with all this information that you're going to be receiving today. That's how it is. And I'll tell you, like driving down here, it was very nice, one of the best days. But before I even talk about the weather, I want to remind you to definitely follow me on Instagram. That's RGL Biz Coach. And also Instagram and Facebook at RGL Real Estate Pro. And make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel Business Capital in Motion on YouTube. Again, that's business with a capital N Motion. Make sure to follow. Anyway, how you doing today, Mr. DJ Rock Nice? How are you?
I'm in my feelings today.
Okay, all right. Very well stated. I'll tell you, I drove, I guess most of you out there in the audience, I come from the southern part of the Beltway.
Yeah, down there where the Commanders are from.
Where the Commanders. And the Commanders, I just learned, I didn't even catch the game last night, but I just learned that the Commanders actually beat the Ravens. Now, That's preseason. It's preseason. It doesn't count.
Yeah, but
it's entertainment.
It's a 24-game win streak that we were on.
A 24 games?
Yeah, we had lost a preseason game since 2015.
Wow. Well, let me ask you, DJ, do you think Magic Johnson's involvement with the Commanders is going to make any sort of a change with the team?
Yes, that whole team, it's a team of them. That whole team of people in there going to completely turn that organization around.
Well, that's what's needed. And I'm telling you, I'm so happy to see that Snyder, because he was too egotistical for me. He was just I didn't like the guy. And the team, I think he did win one championship, and he was told that he had to change the name. And I know he didn't pay much attention to the Native American lady who told him that, but she told him that they were going to curse the team. Whether or not you accept it or not, they ain't did anything since. I think they made playoffs maybe 2 times since she told him that. And even in playoffs, I don't think they ever got past the first round in any. They just been a total disaster when it comes to football. And then just, thinking in retrospect how powerful that team used to be. But I know he was very sluggish about changing that name. He didn't want to get off that. And, want to say, well, it's not offensive. But who is he to say, what's offensive to another person, especially based on his ethnicity or his religion? You know what I'm saying? Because you can't say much about them, whatsoever. And but for him to dictate what's offensive to another person, I don't know. I just question it. But I'm happy to see that they have it's transitioned now to another group of leaders. And I'm quite sure that things would be better than they were. I'll put it like that. Yes, yes, yes. But anyway, I'll tell you, man, like coming here today, it seems like one of the perfect days for summer. The temperature is in the low to mid 80s. I think the highest I saw was 85, and I saw my temperature, my thermometer as I was driving here was kind of going between 81 degrees and about 85. But the humidity seems to be very low. It just seems like a chill day is what I used to call when I was living on the West Coast, a day in the Bay. Okay? That's what this seems like, low humidity and just in those 80s, just a perfect day. It makes you want to get out and just want to do some things. But I'm right here, and this is what I actually do want to do, is to be here and to provide you this information here in Black Business Month. August is Black Business Month, so let that register, put that in, in your subconscious mind and let it be there so that, next year again, August will be Black Business Month. And so you want to educate as many people and try and get them to get into business, as many as possible. But, some good information you're going to hear just, in a few minutes. We'll get to it. Some really good stuff. And as a matter of fact, why should I even wait? Okay? Let me get here. Let me get this together. I got to read this. Okay? Anyway, this is an excerpt that's coming from Chat with the Expert Online now. It's an app, but it says Black Business Month. So August is National Black Business Month, and we recognize the Black-owned businesses across the country. Black business owners account for about 10% of U.S. businesses and about 30% of all minority-owned businesses. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, that amounts to approximately 2 million companies owned by African Americans. Nearly 40% of Black-owned businesses are in healthcare and social assistance, repair and maintenance, and personal and laundry services. I think about George Jefferson. I think about laundry services. Anyway, so other categories include advertising firms, auto dealerships, consulting services, restaurants, barbershops, beauty salons, and more. And, that's very interesting because you take into consideration we are only somewhere between about 12.5 and 13.5% of the overall population. So to see that we do, on a aggregate scale and all, we've got 10%, it's not as bad as I was actually thinking that it was. But if you're looking at the minority-owned businesses, we're holding 30%. So that's more than double our percentage. So that's very good to know. But anyway, it goes on just to say, okay, here's like some of the cities, some of the geographic locations that happen to have these Black businesses. It says, among cities, New York has the most Black-owned businesses in the United States, followed by Atlanta. And that's should be pretty much understood. I mean, New York City has the most Black Americans in America. Atlanta, as far as a city, is probably, I would say Atlanta's probably number 2. I would put them at number 2. That's without any research. So don't hold me to that. If you happen to go and look and find out it's Houston or some other place, I still believe it's Atlanta. The highest ratio of Black-owned businesses is in Washington, D.C. All right. Washington, D.C. is ranking. They got the highest on a percentage basis, not number, but percentage. It says where 28% of all businesses are Black-owned. The growth of Black-owned franchise businesses has been explosive. I'm so happy to hear that. And I'm going to tell you why. It's because starting a business, as you're going to learn more in the second part of this program, it's not all like peaches and cream and you just get out and money starts flowing in just because you open door and put up a sign or whatever. You got to go through trials, tribulations, and figure things out. And with a franchise, you can cut to the chase. You can eliminate a lot of the trial and error simply because through the franchise model there are certain aspects of it, many aspects of it have already been proven. So you've got a blueprint to follow, and that mitigates the overall liability of business losses or businesses going under. So I'm really glad to hear that. It says that in 2012, over 30% of franchise businesses were Black-owned, up from about 20% 5 years previously. So that's astonishing. In 5 years, they gained 10%. That is quite a bit. Wow. So anyway, I won't go into the rest. Well, I will read this right here. It says how to observe. How do you go about observing this month? It says support and encourage African American owned businesses in your community. Learn more about business opportunities for the African American community. Use it's like hashtag National Black Business Month in social media correspondence. And then it just ends by saying discover more on the Black Business Month website. Hey, very good information. I've learned something there myself. I did not know that we are actually holding down 30% of all minority-owned businesses that are in the United States. So very, very good. What can I say? Wow. So I want to go on and I want to speak about something that, I don't know, I've just been kind of glued to, and I've been checking this out and just following it and trying to see where things are going to go. And this happens to be in West Africa, the northwestern part of Africa, where things are kind of murky. And it's a situation like I've never seen before. And just to break it down and give you some, I don't know, some understanding about what's going on, you have many, many countries in Africa were colonized by the French. Years ago, not that many years ago, when you really think about it, a number of those countries started gaining their independence. However, these countries that were colonized by the French had to sign this like post-colonial pact, whatever you might want to call it, that basically gave France pretty much full autonomy over those countries, over those economies. And there were a couple of countries who disagreed. They said, no, we're not going to sign it. And as a result, what France did was went in and they put cement, concrete, and everything in the water lines and just pretty much destroyed everything. All of the infrastructure that they had developed in those two countries, they destroyed it. Now, take into consideration that while they were there in the country, they were getting all of the resources. I'm talking, and Africa is just loaded. These countries are loaded with everything from cacao or cocoa to, you just name it, cobalt, diamonds, all sorts of minerals and precious metals. So the French had already capitalized and they had already gotten this anyway. So it seems like at least they would have had the heart to left some of this infrastructure that they developed. And from my understanding, a lot of the infrastructure that they did develop, okay, for instance, like a highway was basically from the mine, wherever they might have been mining materials, to the shipping, where you go over to the dock. And, maybe just a little bit in the downtown areas, they did some development and everything, but they destroyed it. Now, I won't even name the two countries that didn't agree to go along with their program. But since then, what has happened, even the banking systems in those countries, they could not even hold on to their revenue that was generated. They had to, at one point it was 80%, could not remain in those countries' banks. It had to go to France. It went into their banking system. And once France received the funds, they were free to do whatever they pleased with the money. They could invest it as they pleased, and the way that they invested it was for things that were going to enhance, France. It was going to enhance their economics and make that situation much better. Now, on the opposite side, you have some of these other countries, we're going to call them Francophone. They refer to them as Francophone countries. I don't like the name, but, that's what they call them, so I'll just be consistent with that. So these Francophone countries, mainly because they were colonized by France and their primary language in that country had to be French. It couldn't be their native tongue. It had to be French. That had to be the language. But anyway, you have countries, okay, for instance, like Niger. And this happens to be the country that I'm, speaking of. And this is the one where things have really, really gotten murky. Now, in Niger, what was thought to be their number one mineral or their number one resource was uranium. And as you already know, in order to make nuclear energy, you have to have uranium. And Niger, I think there might be second or third in the world with the amount of uranium that they actually have. And so, on the one hand, you take a country such as France, they don't really have many natural resources. Almost everything that they've got to develop, they've gotten it really through the exploitation of other people, and mainly these francophone countries. And so here it is, and everybody touts how wonderful and beautiful and great and romantic it is in France and Paris, and not taking into consideration how this has actually occurred. But these countries, these francophone countries, all of a sudden, the citizens are becoming very, very irate and upset. And now what they've started to do is to run France out. They're kicking them out. It's like almost, year after year, it's another one. There'll be a coup or a new government will come into existence. And they said, France, look, you got to go. Now, France is running scared. Because some other things had developed, such as the gas line or the oil line that was going to be coming from Russia. Russia used to supply a lot of energy that was going over to Europe, and they destroyed the pipeline. Now, whoever did it, I don't know. I won't even give any speculations. I've heard, but I won't even say it here. But anyway, the pipeline line no longer exists, and also they've sanctioned Russia, and Russia responded by saying, well, we'll cut off some of this energy that's going over there. Now, by cutting that energy off, now all of a sudden, France has really got to be dependent on Niger for that uranium. But here's what has happened. In Niger, there was a coup. I don't even like to say a coup. I would rather call it an ideological rearrangement. Let's put it like, I like that, an ideological rearrangement in a country where actually the military and some of the leaders who were actually trained by the United States government, they said, wait a minute, this ain't working. Our people are poor. We only got 1 out of 10 that even has electricity in the country. And we can't continue to give our minerals and resources away to France at basically nothing. And we are the second poorest country in Africa and one of the poorest countries in the world. And here they are sitting up there, just a little bit further north, as a very wealthy country. And so the president who was in was mainly, or I would say he's being referred to as a puppet for France. And wow, that's what caused this realignment, this ideological rearrangement in the country. And so what has happened now, you have these other 15 countries in West Africa, and they have they're referred to as ECOWAS. I forget what each one. The ECOWAS, those are acronyms, economic country or whatever it is. I don't remember exactly. But anyway, they had a policy that if any of the member countries could not have a coup anymore. And if they did, they would go in and they would have to intervene and to replace the leadership that was taken out. But where the problem is right now is in Niger. Oh my God. All of the people, the citizens, are so happy that what they refer to as the handkerchief head, who was basically in support of France and going along with everything that France wanted, they're so happy that this has occurred. Until this is why I'm saying this is not just a typical coup. This is not. This is where the citizens, the populace there are in alignment with the new leadership that has come in by way of force. And so now, you got ECOWAS. They're there, and the president of ECOWAS, from my understanding, is receiving money and funds from France so that they can go in and get the military together with these 15 nations and invade Niger and put the leadership back in to make sure that France is able to get that uranium so they can have some energy. But then it's like just falling apart. You got Nigeria, which is the largest country over in West Africa, the largest country in Africa, period, but the largest one out, obviously, with ECOWAS. And most of their leadership, a lot of generals is like, no, this is not what we want to do. The people are like, no, the citizens, because regardless of those boundaries, what separates one country from another, they're really the same people. Nigeria, they're right beside each other, and you're talking about some of the same people. Some of their indigenous languages are the same, their foods, They're just so much. They're the same people, but you have these artificial boundaries that were created by the West and created these separate countries to the West's advantage. And now you have other countries, Burkina Faso, you got Mali, and then you have Algeria. Algeria said, no, look, anybody comes, and if there is anybody attacks Niger, that's referred to as a declaration of war. And so this is where it stands. Man, this thing could really blow up. I mean, it could really blow up. Now, take into consideration also, you have Russia, who's kind of, they haven't stepped totally into it, but, they're kind of leaning towards Niger. And, a lot of this happens to do with what's going on with the Ukrainian war. But bottom line, because I look at this, time really starts going fast, but it's something that is happening right now in the world that could really blow up. And, if they don't get control of this, I don't know what's going to happen, but it's something I'm following. And I like for you just to pay some attention to it. Just check it out. Go online and go on YouTube and just check out some of these things that I'm talking about. And you can see. But I also say that what is happening is the world is changing, and it's changing in favor of melanated people. And I think this is just one of the many things that will come in the near future. And as I've already stated, as I have stated on numerous occasions, there are invisible forces at work. And no matter what, these are based on things I've been taught. Doesn't matter. It might look like this other group is so powerful and they can do this and they got these huge militaries and, they can wipe somebody out in no time. It ain't that time anymore. And those things will not work. So all I can do is say, let's keep our eyes on this. Let's see what's going on. And, I just pray that there is no war. I hope that they don't invade Niger. And I'll put it like that. So anyway, I'll tell you what, let's get ready to go into our first break. I will see you as soon as we come back. Bye-bye.